Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Weekly Wrap-Up. I'm Hayes Brubaker.
And I'm Jessica Lee. On today's show, you'll be joining us in our conversation about this week's biggest headlines in the news. So I think we should start off by talking about the sad news.
Yeah, this one's rough.
Liam Payne died at the age of 31. He's one of the singers from the boy band One Direction.
Yeah.
Apparently, he fell from a third-floor hotel balcony.
In Buenos Aires, yeah.
In Buenos Aires. And security said that he jumped from the balcony.
Oof.
Pictures did come out recently, and there was a smashed TV. His whole hotel room was just trashed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of up in the air what went on that night. But
the local officials say that the hotel manager was calling 911 prior to this happening, saying that he was on alcohol and a bunch of other drugs, and it was causing a lot of issues. But it was an unfortunate turn of events. This is one of the biggest celebrity deaths that we've had, I think, in our generation since the Cameron Boyce one.
Yes. And it's really sad seeing people from our childhood just die.
It is.
In some other news, Hunter Biden sued Fox News again.
Yes.
He did sue them during the summer because they shared explicit photos of him. And he ended up dropping this case 3 weeks before his dad, Joe Biden, dropped out of the race. So it was kind of like an interesting turn of events.
Was it a coordinated effort, do you think, or was it just by coincidence?
You know, I don't know. It could be, though, because
it could be.
All the news outlets are mentioning about that time, difference.
And so what specifically is he suing now for? Like what?
Revenge porn.
Revenge porn. Okay. And we have a little definition here. And revenge porn is basically when someone shares intimate pictures of others without consent, and this is a misdemeanor in New York. So it's not a felony, but it's a misdemeanor.
Yeah, so after he filed this case, Fox News moved it to federal court. So they're not fighting it at all.
I see. All right, moving on, we do have a tech story for this week. And Amazon and Google announced earlier that they have plans to build a nuclear power plant to power their new AI data centers, or not their new AI data centers, but their data centers that are now being used for AI stuff. The reason that this is happening is because the current United States grid cannot keep up with the power demands of these massive centers. So their plan is to go with smaller nuclear power plants.
Nuclear?
Yes.
And I always thought nuclear was bad.
Yes, it's gotten a bad rap over the years because of instances like Chernobyl and things like that.
And explosions everywhere, but I'm excited to see what's going on here.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
It's kind of reflecting how much AI is taking over, right? Because they're doing this for AI.
Yeah, so they're kind of abandoning a little bit of their more quote-unquote green energy plans, such as solar and wind, in exchange for nuclear, just because it's more efficient.
I hope it's good.
I hope so too. I think it should theoretically be a positive thing, but we will have to wait and see. All right.
Yes.
Speaking
We're going to circle back to the hurricane last week.
The hurricane last week that hit Florida, Hurricane Milton. And as many of you know, Florida and much of the Southeast got hit last week pretty hard, especially cities like Tampa and the surrounding areas of Tampa.
And with that said, there was one Tampa native who went viral as well because he decided to ride out the hurricane in his little sailboat. And he told his fans he knew that God would protect him through it all. He did end up making it out alive, even though officials and everything wanted him to leave. He was called Lieutenant Dan. Hayes, could you explain what Lieutenant Dan
So Lieutenant Dan was a character in Forrest Gump that lived on a sailboat and was missing, I think he was missing both his legs in Forrest Gump, but this guy's only missing one leg. But he got dubbed by the media as Lieutenant Dan. He kind of went viral. But it's good that he made it through. That is lucky, because I know Tampa really got hit hard. So.
Yeah, and his real name is actually Joseph Malinowski.
Oh,
I think that's
I'm glad you pronounced that and not me, because I would have messed that up.
And I remember talking about this earlier with Lieutenant Dan and everything. I had no idea that it came from a movie. I thought that was his actual name.
Yes.
Apparently, he has had some trouble before. In his past, he tried to light a woman on fire, I think 1 or 2 years ago. And yeah, so it all went down. He was arguing with a woman who had a cigarette lit in her hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about this at all.
And he took a container of gasoline and poured it in between them. And
my
she
goodness.
ended up, I think someone called the police, and they said that he tried to light her on fire.
Oh, wow. Okay, I
Yeah.
did not hear about that, but that's crazy.
It's crazy.
All right, we have another space story for today, just to keep
Yay.
with the theme, but this one's a fun one. SpaceX pulled off something pretty crazy earlier this week. They had a test flight of their huge Starship rocket, which is their biggest one, like the
Yeah.
one that they plan to go to Mars and the moon with and stuff. But the test was to try to catch the booster on the way back down. So they launched their big rocket in Texas earlier this week.
Huge.
And then on the way back down, they had these big arms that came in and caught it. So
it was a success.
it was a successful test and a successful mission, and it was crazy. No one expected it to work, and it did.
I'm glad we're ending it on a happy
I know,
note.
ending it on a happy note. And they got
And-
some cool pictures behind us too. Yep, there it is sitting on the launch pad after they caught it.
It doesn't
So
look like much of a rocket ship.
It's just the
It just
booster.
looks-
It's just
oh,
the booster.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all we have for today.
Yep.
Make sure you tune in to Inside Swoop on Facebook and Instagram to find more details about these stories that we covered today from our amazing team members.
Yes. And thank you for tuning in to this weekly wrap up. I'm Hayes Brubaker,
And I'm Jessica Lee.
and we will see you next week.